Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right? Working hard, praying, trying to stay positive, and yet your life just looked the same month after month? That was me for years. I thought maybe I was unlucky. Maybe God was ignoring me, or maybe life was just rigged against people like me. Then one day, something strange happened. I came across this book, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I didn't even know why I picked it up at first. Honestly, the title felt too big, too unrealistic. Supernatural? Come on. I thought this was just another self-help book filled with motivational fluff. But something in me said, read it. And I remember those first pages like they were yesterday. Joe wasn't talking about luck or chasing money. He was talking about how your thoughts and emotions literally shape your reality. How your body and brain are stuck in loops of the past that keep recreating the same future. And I'll be real with you. I almost laughed. Because at that time, my reality was nothing like the life I wanted. I was barely getting by. And if I was stuck repeating the same future, then I felt doomed. But then he said something that shook me. Your personality creates your personal reality. That hit me like a punch. Because suddenly I realized it wasn't just my job, or my situation, or even the country I was born in that was keeping me broke. It was me. My habits, my emotions, my constant rehearsing of fear and lack. That was the first time in my life I considered this crazy idea. Maybe the only way my reality could change was if I changed. So I tried it. At first it felt weird. Closing my eyes, imagining a life where I wasn't stressed about money, where I wasn't stuck in the same routine, where I felt free. My logical brain said, this is nonsense. You're broke, and you're just wasting time daydreaming. But deep down, something shifted. Slowly, I started waking up with gratitude instead of worry. Slowly, I began rehearsing what was possible instead of what I feared. And do you know what happened? The external world started to mirror it back. New opportunities, new energy, more confidence. And eventually, I crossed that milestone I used to think was impossible. I made more than 100,000 in a single month. But here's what I want you to understand. The real miracle wasn't the money. It was how I felt inside. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living as a victim of circumstances. I was living as a creator of my reality. And that's why I want you to lean in, because what I discovered wasn't magic. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't reserved for a chosen few. It's a principle. And principles work for anyone who applies them. So in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how Joe Dispenza's teaching flipped my life upside down, how it helped me break out of survival mode, and how it led me into a season of abundance that I never thought possible. And stick with me until the end, because I'll also walk you through the exact steps, the principles, you can start practicing today. Not next month, not when conditions improve. Today. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's this. You don't wait for your reality to change before you change. You change first. And reality has no choice but to catch up. When I first started reading Becoming Supernatural, the first principle that hit me right in the chest was this: you cannot create abundance while you are stuck in stress and pain. And when I looked at my life honestly, that's exactly where I was living, day after day. Every morning I woke up already thinking about bills, about how little money was left, about the mistakes I made in the past. My body had memorized stress so deeply that it became my default state. Even when nothing was going wrong at that exact moment, my heart was still racing, my shoulders still tense, my thoughts still spiraling. I was living as if the past was playing on repeat. Joe Dispenza explains it like this: your body doesn't know the difference between something real happening right now and something you're imagining. If you keep replaying painful memories, regrets, or fears in your head, your body reacts like it's happening all over again. Stress chemicals flood your system. Your nervous system fires in survival mode. And here's the kicker. When you live in survival, you cannot create. Think about it. Creation requires openness, vision, imagination. But survival? Survival locks you into tunnel vision. You're only thinking about the next problem, the next danger, the next shortage. And that was me. No wonder my life never moved forward. I was using all my energy just to fight invisible fires in my head. I remember one day so clearly. I had just finished reading a chapter where Joe said, if you want to change your future, you have to stop living in the emotions of your past. That sentence broke me, because I realized my entire life was a habit of emotion. Worry was my habit, stress was my habit, feeling small was my habit. So I tried something simple, he suggested. The next morning, instead of grabbing my phone and immediately drowning in news, messages, and problems, I sat quietly. I closed my eyes. I imagined myself free from stress, free from lack. I imagined waking up with gratitude, smiling before the day even started. And I'll be honest with you, it felt fake at first. My brain screamed, "This isn't real. You don't have enough money. Who are you fooling?" But I kept going. Little by little, I began to notice something. When I practiced being calm in my imagination, my body began to believe it. The stress started to fade. My breathing slowed. My thoughts softened. I tapped into what Joe calls the unknown, a space where your future isn't dictated by your past, but by your choice to feel something new right now. That's when I started to understand what the Bible meant when it says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformation isn't just about what you do, it's about how you feel every single day. Here's the reality. If you keep living in stress and pain, you'll keep creating more situations that match stress and pain, because life mirrors your inner state. But if you decide to break that cycle, to no longer wake up rehearsing problems but rehearsing gratitude, you literally change your biology. You step out of survival and into creation. And that was my first big breakthrough. I stopped waiting for money to make me feel secure. I stopped waiting for success to make me feel confident. I started choosing those feelings before anything changed. And slowly but surely, my life caught up to those choices. That was the beginning of going beyond stress and pain. It wasn't easy, it wasn't instant, but it was the key that unlocked everything else. Because you cannot become supernatural while dragging the chains of yesterday into every tomorrow. After I learned how to step out of stress and pain, the next realization hit me like lightning. When you change your energy, you change your reality. This was a brand new idea for me, because like most people, I grew up thinking life was all about external circumstances. If I wanted a better life, I thought I had to work harder, chase more opportunities, or wait for luck to finally show up. But what Joe Dispenza showed me in becoming supernatural was that life isn't just responding to your actions, it's responding to your energy. Think about it. Every person, every object, every thought carries a frequency. Science proves it. Your heart and brain generate electromagnetic fields. When you're stressed, your body literally emits a frequency of survival, fear, scarcity, tension. That's why people in constant stress often attract more problems. They're vibrating at the frequency of problems. But when you shift into gratitude, love, or joy, your field changes. Suddenly, you're aligned with solutions instead of obstacles, with opportunities instead of dead ends. That's when reality starts to look different. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you changed what you're broadcasting. I saw this happen in my own life. Before, whenever I talked to people about business or opportunities, I carried this nervous energy. I was desperate, even if I didn't say it out loud. People could feel it. And desperation never attracts abundance, it repels it. But once I started practicing gratitude every morning, once I began training myself to feel abundant even before the money came, my conversations changed. I was calmer. I was more confident. People started responding differently. And slowly, doors began to open. I remember one deal that seemed impossible at first, too big for me, too complicated, out of my league. Normally, I would have walked away, but because I was practicing these principles, I approached it with a different energy. Not fear, but curiosity. Not lack, but expectation. And to my surprise, it worked out. That deal alone pushed me closer to my first 100,000 month. Here's the lesson. Your energy is either a magnet for what you want or a magnet for what you fear. And the truth is, you're always manifesting. The only question is, are you manifesting from survival or are you manifesting from creation? The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Notice it doesn't just say, as a man thinketh in his mind. It says heart, because your thoughts plus your emotions equal your energy, and your energy creates your reality. So let me ask you this. What energy are you broadcasting right now? Is it stress, fear, scarcity? Or is it gratitude, expectation, and abundance? Because until you shift your energy, your reality cannot shift. And once I got this, everything else started to fall into place. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn in this journey is this. You don't wait for results before you feel the emotion. You choose the emotion first, and the results follow. For most of my life, I lived the opposite way. I said, I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll feel confident when my business succeeds. I'll finally feel free when all the bills are paid. And guess what? That day never came. Because the truth is, if you keep postponing your emotions until conditions are perfect, you'll be waiting forever. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this the trap of cause and effect living. You're waiting for the world outside to change before you feel something different inside. But here's the supernatural shift. Life doesn't work that way. It's not cause and effect. It's effect and cause. When you feel the elevated emotions now before the evidence shows up, that's what begins to create the evidence. At first, I thought this was nonsense. How could feeling grateful when I didn't have enough money help me pay the bills? How could I feel abundant when my income wasn't even close to where I wanted it? But then I remembered something from Scripture. In Hebrews it says, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Faith isn't waiting for the evidence. Faith is creating the evidence by feeling it before it happens. So I started practicing this. Every morning in meditation, I didn't just think about abundance. I tried to feel it. I closed my eyes and imagined what it would feel like to live free. To see money flowing in, to know that opportunities were chasing me instead of me chasing them. At first, my body resisted. My brain whispered, "You're lying to yourself. Look at your bank account. Look at your life." But the more I practiced, the more real it became. I remember one morning I felt something shift. It was like my body finally surrendered. I was sitting in silence, eyes closed, imagining the life I wanted, and suddenly gratitude flooded me. Not for what I had, but for what I knew was coming. For the first time, I didn't need the evidence. The feeling itself was enough. And you know what happened next? Within weeks, new clients came into my life. Sales started to grow. Opportunities opened that I couldn't have scripted if I tried. Before long, I had crossed my first 100,000 month. But I want to make this very clear. The money didn't make me grateful. The gratitude made the money show up. This is the secret most people miss. They're waiting for the outside to change the inside. But the inside always comes first. If you're constantly rehearsing worry, you'll get more to worry about. If you're constantly rehearsing lack, you'll experience more lack. But if you can elevate your emotions, gratitude, joy, love, abundance, before the results show up, you literally become a magnet for the very thing you desire. It's like tuning a radio station. If you want to hear music on 101.9 FM, you can't stay tuned to 98.5 and hope the song comes through. You have to shift the frequency. Elevated emotions are that shift. They tune your life to the frequency of abundance. And this isn't just spiritual talk, it's science. Joe explains that when you generate elevated emotions, your heart and brain go into coherence. They align and your electromagnetic field expands. That means your body literally begins broadcasting a stronger signal into the field around you. And because energy attracts like energy, that signal draws in experiences that match your new state. The Bible says it another way. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances. Notice that. Give thanks in all circumstances, not just when it looks good. Because giving thanks is not a reaction, it's a creation. That was the game changer for me. When I stopped waiting for results and started living as if the results were already mine, everything shifted. It wasn't instant, but it was inevitable. Because once your emotions rise, your reality eventually rises to meet them. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop postponing your joy, your gratitude, your sense of freedom. Choose to feel it now, even if nothing in your life looks like it yet. Because that choice is the seed, and if you water it daily, the harvest will come. One of the scariest but most powerful lessons I had to learn was this. Surrender to the unknown. I'll be honest, this one was the hardest for me, because I like control. I like knowing where the money will come from, how the plan will work, what the outcome will be. And if you're like me, You probably feel the same way. We feel safe when we can predict things. But here's the problem. When you live in the predictable, you're living in the past. That's what Joe Dispenza showed me. He said the unknown is the only place creation can happen. And that turned my whole world upside down. Because I realized that for most of my life, I was stuck in survival, rehearsing the same thoughts, repeating the same emotions, playing the same story in my head. Because at least it felt familiar. Even if it was painful, it was predictable. And the predictable feels safe. But you can't create a new future while clinging to the old one. When I first practiced surrender, it was uncomfortable. I sat in meditation, imagining my future self living in abundance, living in freedom. And the logical side of me kept screaming, yeah, but how? How will this happen? Where will the money come from? What if nothing changes? I wanted to figure it all out, step by step, before I believed it was possible. But here's the truth. The how is not your job. The how belongs to God, to the universe, to the field of possibilities that's way beyond your control. Your only job is to surrender, to let go of the old identity, the old fear, the old plan, and step into the unknown with trust. It reminded me of Peter when Jesus told him to cast his nets on the other side of the boat. Peter had fished all night and caught nothing. He knew the waters, he knew the patterns, and logically it didn't make sense. But he surrendered. He obeyed. He trusted. And suddenly the nets were overflowing with fish. The miracle wasn't in Peter figuring out the strategy. It was in Peter surrendering to the unknown instruction. That's what it felt like for me. The moment I stopped obsessing about the how, doors started opening. Opportunities came from places I never expected. People reached out to me out of nowhere. Ideas dropped into my mind like downloads. It wasn't about me forcing the outcome. It was about me being open to receive in ways I couldn't predict. And that's where the real supernatural shift happened. Because the unknown isn't empty, it's pregnant with possibility. It's the place where God does his best work. But let me warn you, surrender doesn't mean doing nothing. Surrender means trusting enough to move forward without needing all the answers first. It means taking the step even when you can't see the whole staircase. It means releasing control, not responsibility. That's why when I crossed my first 100,000 month, it didn't feel like I had forced it. It felt like it had found me, because I wasn't gripping the steering wheel so tight anymore. I had learned to relax into the unknown, and that's where the flow began. So let me ask you, where in your life are you still trying to control the outcome? Where are you clinging to the predictable because you're afraid of the unknown? Because that's exactly where your next breakthrough is hiding. The unknown isn't your enemy. The unknown is your future. And the sooner you surrender to it, the sooner your reality will shift. If there's one thing that separates people who talk about change from those who actually experience it, it's this: consistency. When I first started applying what I learned from Joe Dispenza, I thought it was all about the big, dramatic breakthroughs. That if I just had one powerful meditation or one emotional moment of gratitude, everything would shift overnight. And yes, sometimes transformation feels instant. But more often than not, it's the small, invisible, daily choices that rewire your life. Consistency is what takes a principle and turns it into a lifestyle. Think about it. If you go to the gym once, you won't see any results. But if you go 3 times a week for a year, your body transforms. The same thing is true with your mind, your emotions, and your energy. One meditation won't break years of stress patterns. One vision session won't rewrite decades of fear. But daily practice, that's how you build a new identity. For me, it started with just 10 minutes every morning. 10 minutes where I closed my eyes, slowed my breathing, and rehearsed the life I wanted to live. At first, it didn't feel like much. Honestly, some mornings I wondered if I was just wasting time. But day after day, something began to shift. Not in the outside world, but inside me. My reactions changed, my emotional triggers softened. I started catching myself when I slipped into old patterns, and I chose differently. Science explains this through neuroplasticity. Your brain is like clay. It rewires itself based on repeated experiences. The more you rehearse stress, the stronger those stress pathways become. But the more you rehearse gratitude, abundance, and possibility, the stronger those new pathways grow. Consistency literally changes your brain. The Bible confirms this too. It says in Galatians, "Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap, if you do not give up." Notice it doesn't say in the same season, it says due season. That means results come not when you want them, but when you're ready for them. And the only way you get ready is by being consistent. I remember a turning point in my own journey. I had been practicing for months, but my reality didn't look that different yet. And I was tempted to quit. I thought, maybe this doesn't work for me, maybe I'm just wasting time. But then I reminded myself, consistency isn't about what you see in the moment. It's about who you're becoming through the process. So I pushed through. And it was only after that season of apparent nothingness that the breakthroughs started pouring in. Bigger sales, unexpected opportunities, and yes, my first 100,000 plus month. Looking back, I realized that if I had given up during the quiet season, I would have missed the harvest that was already growing beneath the surface. Consistency also creates momentum. At first, it feels hard. You're fighting inertia, your old identity pulling you back. But if you keep showing up, one day it clicks. What used to feel like effort becomes second nature. Gratitude becomes natural. Vision becomes automatic. Abundance becomes your default. That's when consistency stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like freedom. Think of David in the Bible. He didn't slay Goliath because he suddenly woke up one day with courage. He was consistent in the small things, protecting his sheep, practicing with his sling, worshiping God in the quiet fields. That daily consistency prepared him for the big moment. And when it came, he was ready. The same is true for you. Don't despise the small daily choices. Don't underestimate the power of repeating the fundamentals until they become part of you. Because it's not the one-time events that transform you. It's the repetition of truth, practiced until it's your identity. That's why Bruce Lee once said, "I don't fear the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." Mastery doesn't come from variety. It comes from repetition, from consistency, from showing up even when you don't feel like it. And here's the challenge. Where in your life are you inconsistent? Where are you waiting for motivation instead of building momentum through habit? Because the truth is, you don't need motivation. You need consistency. Motivation is a feeling. Consistency is a choice. So let me leave you with this. If you truly want to transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, your health, it's not about doing something massive tomorrow. It's about what you decide to practice today and tomorrow and the day after that. Because consistency compounds. It multiplies. And eventually it creates the life you once thought was impossible. The supernatural isn't about magic. It's about alignment. And alignment is built one consistent step at a time.